I stopped off at the casino and grabbed a coffee.
Good.
And a Danish.
Cash Creek.
Do I smell like cigarettes?
No.
Welcome to the Marketing Team of One podcast, where we have conversations about the issues one-person marketing teams face when trying to meet their goals with limited time and budgets. Now here's your hosts, Eric and Mike. Mike, I've been thinking about emails. I'm inspired by some of the new... It seems like, I don't know, there's a lot more value in the emails I'm seeing lately in some of my stuff. Do you value your emails? Is there any emails that you... Or do you just rampantly toss all of your emails out?
Oh, well, I think it depends on the email. There are some that there are no question asked, delete. I don't even have to go any further.
Okay.
Some like unsubscribe right away. I don't need to, so I try and be good about unsubscribing from things that have no value to me whatsoever.
Do you have like a set time every year or something? You're like, all right, I'm going to just unsubscribe from all
try and nip it in the bud pretty quickly.
So you're just constantly.
Yeah, I got something yesterday. I was just like, what? Who? Huh? No.
How many emails you get in the morning when you wake up, you roll over, turn on the laptop?
Ooh, 20 to 40 probably.
Poof, I got work to do. Okay. Good to know. I get 150.
Oh, gosh.
That tells me I need to unsubscribe a lot.
Yes.
A lot. But there are some that I really love. What emails do you not unsubscribe?
Oh, I mean, it's funny because there's some there's no questions asked. I'm going to delete or unsubscribe. There's a whole other set of no questions asked. I'm going to open it and read it as quickly as I see it in my inbox.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think that some of a lot of them kind of deal with they're educational in nature. They are kind of scratching an itch I have, whether it's a problem I'm continually facing or something. It feels like an enrichment process. It's helping
professional development.
Correct.
Something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
No products.
I tire of the product things. There are some product-based ones that I keep going because I'm like, yeah, I know I'm going to delete them for a long time, but I want to know if hey, if this thing's going to be 40% off, I want to be able to take advantage of that.
Do you have, I know you've got probably a home email.
Yep.
Is there a division there, like all the product emails, you open it on the home emails?
Yeah. That personal home thing is all... Yeah.
But you're rarely buying products at work other than maybe software as a service stuff or learning stuff.
Learning stuff, yeah.
That's
educational.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think there's something to be learned by that spectrum. Mm-hmm. And what we see as, ourselves and, what people are doing. And so I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of talk about that because I think there's probably a lot of solo marketers that they hear stats like email is the most effective way, and there's all the benefits, that you've got your list that you own, you're not and you can build a following and loyal customers through that email list, but that seems like a far off vision. And what can we do to get there? Should we do it? I think there's a lot that we could talk about.
Yeah, there's a ton of value in having that list. I mean, that is really something it's almost a walled garden that you're in complete control over. Yeah. They're an audience that's locked in. They have not unsubscribed.
Yep.
And they're waiting for your next message or whatever.
But I think you need to treat that as kind of sacred, that list, and don't do things that I see in the emails that I don't question, delete, or unsubscribe. Because if you're doing things that are getting people to unsubscribe right away, your email marketing objectives you're not going to hit any of those objectives. But I mean, there's something to be said of that a regular email campaign is the main purpose is to keep it's an awareness play, right? You just keep seeing that brand show up. And as long as it stays in the inbox, as long as it's you're not unsubscribing, you're fulfilling part of that mission. So you're helping a lot of those people by not unsubscribing. You're welcome. Their brand is still bouncing around in your head, even if it is delete, delete, delete.
That's the point, that's one of the points I think that we're getting at is even at the lowest, even if they're not engaging or clicking on it and reading it, there's a brand awareness that pops into your head when you see that email, even if you're deleting it without even reading it.
You have to be delivering some value.
So let's talk a little bit about email marketing strategy, because I think that's really what we're focused on today here a little bit. What if I'm wondering about like the differences between product-based companies and service-based companies, and the differences between, is there something that we could talk about, and I'm not crafting this, please cut this out. You know what I mean? Like
there is a big difference in it, but I mean,
do we want to address that here?
I don't know, because we're trying to fit this in under 30 minutes, right?
I wouldn't worry about the time so much.
Well, I think it's just like, I am worried about time today because we have limited time to record too. So, I wonder if we get more into, I mean, I think most of the guidance is generic enough.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? Like,
focused on what customers want and problems they face. I guess that applies to any. So we're talking about email marketing strategies, messaging strategies. Where do you begin? Why? Well, I mean, I guess we know why is there's a brand awareness thing. You want to provide value for your customers, and you want to maintain some sort of level of communication with those customers.
Email by a lot of accounts is the return on investment is very high if you do it right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's worth pursuing, unless your audience just isn't an email type. But I think by and large, almost everybody should at least consider email and as part of a marketing strategy.
It is the platform everybody still goes to when they turn on their computer and go to work, specifically.
As much as everybody wants to kill it, it's still out there.
So what's the best way to start? I mean, like how do I begin this effort?
I think if you start, if you've gone through the first thing and said, hey, is email right for me? It's probably worth pursuing.
Mm-hmm.
You're there. I think one of the first things is like, what do you want to get out of it? Like, what are your goals for it? Right? Do you want to build a list of people? Is your goal to grow your list? Is your goal to increase sales? Get really clear on what your goal is. I think that'll help make some of your later decisions a little bit more clear, because you've got the goal that you're striving for. Mm-hmm. And I think that plays into your overall strategy quite a bit. And so sometimes if your goal is to make sales, you're going to put more CTA heavy emails. You're going to put together more CTA heavy emails. Buy now,
sign up here.
Sign up. Yeah. But if you're really just trying to build a relationship and stuff like that, you're probably not going to be as call to action heavy. You're probably going to be leading with stuff that's maybe a little bit more informational, a little bit more probably engaging and helping people solve secondary issues that maybe aren't the ultimate call to action.
And I would argue that part of that strategy kind of falls into line with Seth Godin wrote a book called Permission Marketing.
Yeah.
Recommended. It's kind of an older book, but it still plays true in the sense that there's a big focus on, it's almost a relationship you're trying to build. Trust is really hard to find, and you can't just buy trust from people.
Yep. And
having this constant drip of communication with people, providing value, helping them, builds some of that trust.
I think those call to action ones, those product specific ones, or the hard sell emails, those can wear over time, right? You don't. I think if you send out a daily email with trying to sell a product, it's gonna wear on people. They might not have them very long, but if you can provide value outside without asking for a action on the other person's side, and mix that into your strategy and have some of those, action oriented emails or those asks of your audience, that's a healthier mix. And I think we've talked on other podcasts about this, like this idea of, having like a 80-20 split, like provide value 80% of the time and then ask 20% of the time. So I think that's a good overall strategy to keep in mind, but making sure that you're, again, thinking about how that fits into your goals for what
And
you're
your
doing.
goals may range on that spectrum depending on what you're offering. Is it a commoditized thing that you're offering, service or product? I would argue that you're probably more on the CTA buy now realm, because if it's commoditized, you're competing only on really price.
Correct.
If you're more in the expertise, I do this great, I'm one of the best X in the world, whatever that thing is, and you're trying to sell long-term maybe relationships or business partnerships or things like that, that's going to be much more on that 80-20 or maybe even 90-10, where you're not asking hardly ever. You're just give, and then, oh, by the way, if you're interested, sign up here or whatever.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. So, I think setting goals is a huge thing. I think another thing to keep in mind is audience, and like knowing your customers, know your audience, like as much as you can. Any information you can get about your audience, the better. What do they want? What do they need? What are problems they face? I think that's good. That will help you create content that resonates with them. And if you're not thinking about them, your email marketing efforts aren't nearly as effective as they could be. I've found, especially recently, there's a lot of good tools. It might not be practical as a solo marketer to go out and start interviewing all your customers, and like you got a whole bunch of other things to do. You can't get a lot of like firsthand information from people. That would be ideal if you can, right? But like I've seen, like there's a like in ChatGPT, there's these idea of these like custom GPTs where they fit a certain task or something. I think I've seen a few of them now that are like these persona generators, and you can feed in a persona of your ideal customer and interact with ChatGPT, and it gives you really good ideas about like pain points and everything. So you can use that to get a deeper understanding of this like proto persona of who you're going after. And that can give you some good ideas when it comes to brainstorming ideas for content for your emails, or even like lead magnets or things that you can put together to try and grow your list over time.
Yeah, the lead magnet thing is very important too. That's kind of before we even get to doing the email part of that. The idea behind a lead magnet is you put something out there that people traded their email for, and then you're building your list. They've opted in, they're signed up, and they want to see what you're saying. So that's kind of the strategy behind a lead.
Yeah. I think most of the stuff we'll talk about today is so much more about like we're ignoring the big question, like how do you grow your list? I don't think we're going to address a lot of that right now. But I think there's stuff that we see in the emails that we get, and then we see that there's some definite characteristics with all of them that hold true. And I think that's what we wanted to cover mostly today.
I'm thinking about frequency, and is that part of the strategy too when you're designing the content around who your audience is? You're aware of who they are. Then you start to develop it, maybe bouncing back and forth with ChatGPT with this prototypical customer.
Proto-persona.
Oh,
sorry, that was very inside language. Let's just say your ideal, customer profile.
What's nice is you can load that in and then interact with that customer.
Yep.
And they give you information back that then you can use to craft those emails. Then
I've had one that had in my list of chats for a few months now, and I keep going back to it every once in a while to ask further questions about it. And so it's not just like a one sitting type thing. It's like it's almost like interviewing having that person on call to interview them about, hey, what do you think about this issue or this want?
Yeah, I built one that's like you, so that I don't have to bug you, and I can just ask it, hey, can I do this? And it's usually no, of course. But
yeah.
So
I assume the instructions you have in there is pretty simple. Grunt, sigh, say no. And that's all it does every time you ask it something.
Well, it's like it's like 3 notes on a piano kind of a thing. And then then there's a translation step that takes place to translate what the grunt is back to into English. So, but it works,
It's like the 3-chord power pop kind of thing, right? Like, yeah. Okay.
Nice.
Cool.
But that's a really helpful tool.
Yeah.
I think that's what's really amazing about AI is you can really design.
Yeah. I think it's
agents,
enabled
I guess,
that like brainstorming / I think Microsoft did a great job calling it Copilot, even though I'm not using the Microsoft one, but so often now I see ChatGPT as a Copilot in these kind of like brainstorming and bouncing ideas and being able to quick touch research on the needs of the audience as we're trying to build out different marketing campaigns.
Yeah.
So I think that's super important. I think that like being able to know that customer is super important. I think one thing that I see a lot, I think a lot of people reach to, you'll see it all over the place, is that they start off on an email marketing campaign and their first idea is, well, we need to send a monthly newsletter. And I think that's a bad idea for a lot of reasons.
There's a weird thing that comes with that word newsletter. I think a lot of people it's a varied translation of what does that mean. Like I cringe when I hear newsletter. I'm like,
I've seen it go two ways. And I think the newsletter's carrying a lot of weight. I've seen newsletters that are really good. So like there's whole businesses like people, especially this is more in like the thought leadership space and stuff like that. They build businesses on their newsletter and they might call it a newsletter, right? But I don't think most businesses when they say put out a newsletter are thinking in those terms. What they're doing is it's a mechanism to remind people that are out there by talking all about themselves and things they did. So, hey, we just had a luncheon here. Hey, we were at this or this or this.
You ate lunch.
Awesome. I don't know about that. I think it ignores the step before, knowing who your audience is and speaking to them. You have to have your most fervent fans might care that you did that luncheon, but you're not. That's a select few, right? That's not bringing a lot of value to the table. So the other thing is the cadence of that. Back to you asked about the frequency and stuff like that. A monthly newsletter, like you're showing up once a month to talk about yourself and then that's it. Like I would question the effectiveness of that. I think you'd be better off skewing your newsletter to, if you are going to do the newsletter and you're going to call it a newsletter, I think you need to be providing a lot more value on a more regular basis, and the value needs to come from not talking about yourself all the time. You need to talking about something that's very common amongst your ideal customers.
Well, like could you do like case studies or like customer stories?
That one's interesting because I think the case studies can be very, very valuable, but you're not going to hook me to read it by saying, hey, this is a case study. You know what I mean? Yeah. You'd have to tell a story about it that lands with people, and there's some messaging and phrasing that you could do to kind of pivot the presentation of that case study, but I wouldn't lead with, hey, this is a case study.
Yeah, it's like a case study is really valuable when somebody's checking you out in a sense, like validating what you do and making sure that there's legitimate customers who've found value in what you're providing.
And they're in that consideration phase, or should I move forward or not, and stuff. That
maybe we're
very valuable.
That.
Right.
But these are probably people beyond that phase, right?
Or not even to that phase yet.
Or not. Yeah. Okay.
Like you've made them aware that you exist, and you've provided something that they want to be kept in the loop on. But there's. I think there's a healthy place for it. I think it's a nuanced thing. I think it's how you add it to the table.
Yeah, it's also, I think of like some of these that I've seen and unsubscribed from talk about, this person in this department did this thing. Like, I get it. You're trying to build a team and rapport within the team. And there's places for that.
Yes.
But maybe not in a newsletter or not in an email message or something like that. That sounds more like a social media, maybe a LinkedIn thing or something like that. Where
I think that comes back to the goal too. Like, is your goal to create that seems like a great internal email to send to your big team, like congratulations, all that stuff. But does it match the audience and it doesn't match the goals that you've set for everything?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So we've got our strategy. We've got our audience. We have powered up ChatGPT, built our agent or our proto.
Yeah.
Who's
persona?
Proto persona. Thank you. I need to
Yeah.
tattoo that on my inside forearm. Yeah. What's the next step? We got to start doing. Planning.
We got to start doing it. We got to. Yeah. We got to start.
What's the first step?
I think planning ahead it's essential. But I also think that if you can batch certain activities, it's less of a drain on things. I've been in this situation where I've tried to do the emails right before we need to send them out, and that's not fun at all. It's stress inducing, right? Like if I could sit down and knock out 3 or 4 emails at a time, that'd be great. But I think but you could do it in phases too. Like I think if we're following these steps, right? We've got our strategy, we've got our audience. I think brainstorming a list of what your topics are going to be. Well, like what are things you can talk about? Dump them all out and then start choosing a few of them to that you feel like you can move forward on, and then scheduling those out, like put them into a schedule. Determine a schedule that works best for you. Like if you're not doing it all the time, I definitely wouldn't do daily, I would, I mean, I think weekly is a good cadence, but it depends on your industry. It depends on,
I think there's this weird like chart that's like, if you're the less frequent, the more content maybe, and the more frequent, the less content kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Like, I know I get an email from Jonathan Stark every single day, even on the weekends, and they're great. I read them because I know that it's a low time commitment thing. And
it's like 3 sentences, right?
Yeah. Sometimes it's like, exactly. 3 sentences or a paragraph, and it's no art, no design, no nothing. It's just, I know what I'm getting. It's really solid, good. Just, hey, by the way, here's a reminder. Think of things like this. Do this. Consider this. Here's a story.
Yeah, but you're putting a lot of pressure on the big ones if you have low frequency, right?
That's true.
Like you really need to deliver.
Yikes. Okay. So there's a happy medium.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think batch if possible, like, and then just but find a frequency that you can that works for your based on all the other priorities. Try and get ahead of things as much as possible. Batch if you can. Batch the creation of it. Batch the topics of it. The great thing about email is you could sit down. I mean, in theory, if you had 2 days free, you probably could do. You could do, a quarter's worth of emails.
Yeah.
Assuming there's a lot of other factors in there, but like if you're doing more like kind of thought leadership type or educational stuff, you could write a bunch of them in one sitting and schedule them out. Like get them into your email program and schedule it out to happen. And then you can let that roll while you're working on other things. Yeah. So that's the case with some things, but not all things. So it's nice to have something that you can do ahead of time and then just let run while you focus on other high priorities.
So you just talked about writing.
Yep.
The stuff. What about like design? Because like isn't the visual side of things, isn't that an important piece to this?
I think this is something that we see a lot that goes sideways. Super important. And when I say design, I'm not necessarily saying that every single pixel or everything needs to be scrutinized. Sorry.
Okay. Darn.
But I think you should have a very, very good and flexible template that a lot of thought has been put into. Design thought has been put into.
Do you change? How often do you change that? Or is it just like run it, figure it out, boom, that's it for the year, the quarter, or the whatever?
I wouldn't change it too much because another one of my big things is consistency, right? Like when I think of design, I think of it's an extension of your brand. And if you're changing the designs and things look so different between things, you're undermining maybe the consistency of your brand and everything. So
that makes sense.
I think, especially for something like email, I think people are going to respond a lot to the content of the email, but that I do think that design is important and that you should follow as many design best practices as possible, like with type sizes and colors and just make sure that you're not doing anything in those emails to distract people from the message you're trying to get out there.
Email's tough because there's so many technical limitations to what you can actually put in an email because it has to disperse out to so many different types of devices, and there's platforms and software and all the things. So you kind of have to simplify what that design is, which is helpful. Sometimes it's a really helpful process to just make it as elegant and simple as possible, but try to make it as distinct as you possibly can, whatever relates to your brand. And if people are going to see it a lot, don't put in there like a fluorescent header or some crazy.
Unless that's your brand.
Shocked, but
I think it depends, right? Like the reality is that for a lot of emails, like they're glanced at really quick. People are trying to make a decision whether they need to even invest any time into this thing.
Yeah.
Do you want to spend a ton of time doing a custom design for each one of these emails? The return on that investment, especially if you got you're one person, it's probably not going to be there because it's taking away from some other things that you probably need to work on. So my instinct is to find a good, like, create a template that has flexibility to do a bunch of things that you're going to be doing. And ideally, by the time you're designing, you already have an idea what your topics are what you're going to be covering. You're going to have a good idea of what your email toolkit will need.
Right.
And you can utilize that. And don't get into custom coding things.
No.
Just don't.
There's enough templates out there that will help you build whatever is going to work for your organization. You don't need to get nuts.
My hairline used to be about right here until I started doing custom coded emails, and then it just
heavens. The other thing too that's really important to consider when you're designing it is don't just look at it on a desktop, don't just look at it on your phone. Look at it on all the different devices, right? Like send tests out and make sure that everything looks fine on an iPad and all the different tools, right?
Especially I think you can nip a lot of that in the bud early on, like if you are creating your own like templates and everything like that, being able to run through things. I know there's tools like Litmus, and there's probably a bunch of other ones that are integrated into different software platforms that will give you a screenshot of how they look on different common email clients. And I think that's essential early on because it can get a little weird. And so, as time's gone on, I've opted to simplify the emails and use a lot of the tools that the email platforms have built in there, and try not to stray too much from that because they're already coded to standardize against a lot of those things. Yeah, that's one of the big reasons why, like, going into custom code emails, that you're going to end up spending a lot of time troubleshooting things. And like, for example, this is old news to a lot of people, but like way back when Microsoft decided that with Outlook, instead of using their web browser rendering thing, they decided to change it to use Microsoft Word's rendering thing. And that decision, even to this day, hampers the way what HTML emails can look like and everything. And so just custom coding email things is just a road to pain. So like, I think sticking with the tools that are provided by your email and trying not to stray too much from that is going to be smoother. Yeah. But you always should be testing these things out on in many different email clients and softwares you can get your hands on. And if you have a limited stack, use one of these email testing platforms. Like
I feel like there was a time way back, I'm talking like maybe 10 years ago, where we were in the game of building custom emails, but I believe we actually built websites cheaper than sometimes some of the website or the emails that we were building.
And it's weird. Like, it was amazing that we could spend that long trying to troubleshoot something, that there was this patience to get it out there. But it's just,
well,
maddening.
Litmus was crazy because it would show you, here it is on 60 different platforms. And you're like, wait, there's 60 different platforms for email? Because it's just, like, don't even go there. It is a disaster zone. Just stick with the platform templates.
So, I mean, err on the side of simplicity.
Yes.
As much as you can.
It's people are breezing through emails quickly. Now, it's a valuable spot, definitely. But
it is.
It is something people will scan more than sit down and read. There are only a few emails that I actually save, file, come back to, and sit down and read them.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I'm just looking for quick hits, quick bites. Where's the value?
Which really leads into one of the other things I want to talk about. Like, I think there's a tendency to, when people are writing, this is more about writing and everything like that. I think being concise and being kind of ruthless in your editing is super important. Depending on the type of email you're doing, some formats lend to that better than others. But if it is some kind of email where you do have to write a bunch of words, like maybe paragraphs or something like that, edit ruthlessly, cut out stuff that doesn't need to be there, break it up. But in that text, cut out what doesn't need to be there. Like, keep an eye on that. Just know that you have limited time and limited attention on that. And if there is something behind that needs to be, maybe hopefully it's on your website. Provide a link to that, so if people are interested, they can read the full accounting of it or something like that.
Or if you've got another, like I like your tip too, like break it up. Because if it's like, oh, this makes me think of these funny stories or these certain use cases, well, maybe just show the one. And then if you really liked all three of those use cases, whatever they are, there you go. There's 2 more emails. Maybe, think about it in those terms. One of the other things that I really like about the emails that I read that are not concise, what I like is that they'll give me, some of the ones that I read will be like, this will be the most fulfilling 4 minutes and 29 seconds of your morning. They give you a time estimate of how long it reads.
I think that's great.
Which is really helpful, because then I know, okay, I'm going to file this, so I'll come back to this at 11 or whenever I have that down 5 minutes, I can go back to this and read it. And I will go back and do that.
One of my favorite emails that I get, and I think they send 3 a week now, it used to be just 1, is called Demand Curve. And it's all about, it's marketing techniques for SaaS startups and everything like that. And there's a lot of good stuff that applies beyond those industries. It's pretty wide. They're longer emails. They're covering a certain topic, but they do, I don't know that they have the time thing on there, but at the very top, they introduce, hey, here's what we're talking about. This is what we're covering today. And I'll be honest, I love that newsletter. That's one of the ones that's an instant open and I'll read it. But I might not read all of it. Like if the introduction, that they talk about what they're going to be talking about, if it doesn't match something that I can move on. But I love that. I think it's a great courtesy to provide people like, hey, not everything's going to be for everybody, right? Like, but let's hint this in so you're not wasting your time.
Yeah. Another one that I like that I think is really interesting, it's much more journalistic and it's communication arts. I don't know if you get that email, but I get that every day. They have a great system where it's basically 3 links. Is thinking about this, and then it's a link, and it's boom. It might be another article outside of communication arts. Might be another website. I learn a lot from those.
I love
quick.
when people put that stuff in there. I love those references and everything like that. James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits, his is really good, and he's got some thoughts of his own, thoughts from others. He's got references. It's a really good model, and I'm never going to unsubscribe. I don't read all of them, but I'm never going to unsubscribe because there's always good stuff in there.
What else attracts you to some of those? Speaking of the concise, because there's a balance there. It's like I need value, but like we talked about Jonathan Stark being like 3 sentences kind of a thing. There's others that are more like 3 paragraphs, and those I find myself tending to like just scan and maybe delete or file for later. So there's that scanning thing. I think the first thing that I look at, let's talk a little bit about subject lines. Is there a strategy? What do you recommend, or what were you thinking about?
I think there's a whole art to that.
Yeah.
And I think so much of it is contextual and everything like that. But you have to hook people. You have to do something that's going to prompt them to read it, to at least open it, right?
So not just the title of your company?
No.
And newsletter?
Yeah. Yes. That's a good way to get me to not open it.
Okay.
So, there's a lot of testing you can do, A/B testing on titles and stuff like that. I think that's the something that should be part of the regular kind of
So you segment your audience and send this email?
A lot of tools have that A/B testing on the subject lines to see what works and stuff like that. But if you're not to that point yet, and I think some of them need a certain level of people to open to even make it valuable to test. But if you're not at that point yet, like think about what's a big takeaway for the email. What's a way you can hook people and build interest into it, and play with it.
Is there a specific word count that is magic? Is it 2 words? Is it 5 words? Is it 25 words?
I think as a lot of the tools now have a guidance on. I forget what the exact character count is. You want to stay, as concise as possible. Remove any filler words, but pay. I think that could be a podcast episode all to itself. Is like how to hook people in as few words as possible. And that applies so much into subject lines.
Do some of these platforms, and the platforms we're talking about are like MailChimp or ActiveCampaign, HubSpot. All these are platforms that you can develop these campaigns on. I'm imagining that, and I don't know for certain, maybe you can tell me, is AI involved in like scoring and helping people score their content once they get into building these?
There's a lot of tools out there that will do it, and some of them are integrated into, I think it just depends on the platform you're on and everything. But if I was one of those platforms, I would be trying to build that in as much as possible, because that's what's going to keep
Plus they
sticky.
have all the data. Like they know what gets clicked, okay, we've got all the stuff built. We got the campaign. It's been running. I mean, how is there a review like what's the next, like we got to review it, right? We got to probably look back on it.
Yeah. I think you always have to be looking at your analytics, and not every day, not every on an item thing, but it's probably helpful to structure some kind of like regular review in your performance on these emails, because there's clues within those emails that will tell you, open rates, that's a little fuzzy thing because of devices and everything, but click-through rates and everything. What kind of emails were getting open more often? What kind of emails were getting more clicks? Like use that to tune the creation. It's kind of like a loop, right? You go through there, brainstorm all your ideas, create the emails, run those, then look at what worked, and then when the next time you're going through and you start creating, take what you've learned in those things, and then see if you can get a better email product based on the analytics that's provided.
So maybe speaking to marketing teams of one that have limited resources and time, maybe they sit down and they write out a month's worth of emails or 2 months worth of emails, get those in the pipeline, get them programmed, get them all set up. Next time they go back 2 months later and write the next 2 months of emails, then maybe that's when they take a look at things.
You could do a review and like, hey, what worked? What didn't work? Like we've put together a spreadsheet of all the different emails that were sent out with the subject line, the open rate, the click-through rate, and what the type of email. So like for this particular one, we had a mixture, our strategy had a mixture of direct asks of people or more kind of just more helpful information. And we categorized all those things, and we saw that there were certain emails that just weren't doing it. And so we decided we weren't going to do that type of email anymore. So it's really helpful to use that data to inform your future actions.
The data too, the performance of that email, it could be measured. You said CTRs, click-through rate.
Yep.
Open rate.
Yep.
Is there any other important number around this? Because those to me seem like pretty easy. Those are the two main ones, right?
Yeah. I guess the other one to really keep an eye on is your unsubscribe rate. Like how often are you there's going to be some churn. I think you just have to acknowledge that that's going to happen. Ideally you're adding people more than you're but the argument is that the people who are unsubscribed weren't in your audience anyways, so you weren't going to get anything out of it. So it could be a healthier list as a result, but you do want to keep an eye on that. Like if you're sending something, like I would keep an eye out for an email, and if it had, there's going to be a regular kind of like average of what you expect for unsubscribes. Maybe it's 1 or 2 or 3 or something like that. But if you, let's say you were averaging like 3 unsubscribes per email, like if you had one where you had like 20 something, I would look a lot closer at like, okay, what do we do in this email? What happened here? Like avoid that.
Yeah.
So yeah, just don't ignore those analytics. Don't just like send it out there, and because that's a way of seeing what your
but
your
also
audience
look
is
at
doing.
it with a healthy eye in the sense of don't be just constantly looking
Yes.
like just give it time a little bit, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I think it's a measured approach, and don't get hung up on that all the time. Every time. Just pick your moments on when you're looking at those analytics, and maybe it's quarterly, monthly, something like that.
Yeah.
What technical types do technical issues ever come into play and affect that a little bit, or?
It's something that happens, especially if you're brand new into this and you're setting something up. There's domain verification processes that you should go through. Absolutely. And all the platforms will warn you about this, but make sure that you're adding like the proper, like it's a DNS setting. These are DNS settings that you want to make. And those are going to ensure that when it verifies that your email provider, so let's say it's MailChimp, is authorized to say they are your company and send on your behalf. If you don't have that in place and MailChimp is saying, hey, we're this company, but the domain stuff doesn't match up or it hasn't been verified, it's more likely to land in spam or get caught up in people's firewalls so it never even sees the intended target. So keeping an eye on those things is super important. There's some tools. One I like to use a lot is called MX Toolbox, where you can put in your domain name and it'll keep an eye on your standing on certain things.
Do you have to go back into your DNS records with your? That's under your URL, correct?
Yeah.
Your DNS.
Yeah. So if you've registered for it, we could spend. Actually, it would be an anthology to talk about DNS, but in general, in the most simplified way, if you register your domain name at something like GoDaddy,
right,
they will have the tools that say this domain name points here for your website, it points here for your emails, and there's a whole bunch of other things that get kind of added on to that. And the more sophisticated your marketing tech stack gets, the more you'll have records for this.
There'll be multiple records.
Multiple records like, hey, this is where our email service provider for marketing lives. This is where our customer portal lives. It gets
well,
crazy.
I want to mention it because I know from firsthand. I mean, we had a client at one point that got red flagged because they were identified as a spammer because they didn't fix some of the stuff you're talking about.
Exactly.
The email company that they were using didn't go back and verify and do all this thing. So all of a sudden, the worst case scenario, the nuclear option is all of a sudden none of those emails go out because you're automatically tagged as a spammer.
The worst case scenario is not these marketing emails that are really just awareness things, like business critical emails that are being sent get caught up.
All of a sudden, those aren't.
Yeah. And can you imagine business running without email communication?
Wow. That was a long time ago.
Kind of sounds like a dream, but it's not a real. But
at the beginning of my career,
So that technical stuff is not something to be ignored. You definitely, and if DNS stuff is not your bag, few people's. It's not. Yeah. But find someone who is. Some of those stuff for people who know what's going on. They are very simple changes to make. Talk to somebody. Talk to a tech person or something. Get those things sorted out and make sure that you're in good standing, because you could do all the work in the world that we've talked about already, and if you've got those things wrong, it's going to be all for naught.
Well, and the problem is it's not like you just, I fixed it and then boom, everything's working again. It takes a long time for that stuff to kind of work its way through the system. Just like when you launch a website, like boom, okay, the website's live. Well, in 24 hours, everybody in the world will be able to see that website. It's not like it's just an instant on-off switch that, there's a lot of inner workings that go on in the background.
And there are things you could do to minimize that time and stuff like that. Yeah, some of those providers will say 24 to 48 hours, but
Well, we've learned a lot about email. It sounds like, you've given us some really good guidance on the best way to kind of tackle a successful email campaign, get started, get going. What are your final thoughts? I mean, what's the leave? What do we want to walk out the door with here?
Okay. So, I mean, all the stuff we decided we're going to do it.
Yeah.
You're not commit. Like, do it. Know that you're not going to see results right away. Okay. This is a long tail game. Like you know,
like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah. Well, time is just a construct that's, you know, that could be messed with.
Right.
No, like this is like think of this as something you're going to do in perpetuity.
Whoa.
I think you should. Commitment. I think you should think about it this way. And if you're going to do it, do it.
Okay.
Don't give up on it. Know that it can build over time, but you're not going to, you know, it's not going to work right away.
So in a sense, you need to kind of look at this as like a lifestyle choice.
Yeah.
I have now bought a pet monkey that I need to take care of.
Yep. Maybe
it's a little less maintenance than a pet monkey, but in a sense, right? It's
yes, commit to it. Like I think there's so much material out there. There's so many places to learn all the intricacies of what we've talked about and how to build it out. And there's so many success stories of what people have done. If you follow all the best practices, that it can be very, very effective. Mm-hmm. But none of those say, I mobilized an email. My email marketing took off in 30 days. Mm-hmm. None of them do that.
Okay. So
it's a long tail game.
Long.
Commit to it.
Okay.
But your patience will be rewarded.
All right. Yeah, I think that goes with any kind of, when you speak inbound is a very long game thing. It's building that relationship. It's a long-term thing. You're dating in a sense, right? Yep. It's just you're going through getting to know you and establishing authority and building trust and all those things that you just don't snap at your fingers and all that stuff happens with people. Yeah. Need to think of this as kind of the same way. There's a lot of great resources too, I think, online too. I mean, you could spend weeks studying all the intricacies of that. Is there any online sources that you referred to in the past that really help you?
I was afraid you were going to ask me that because I don't have any top of mind. There's been my mind is a mixture of all these great ones. In a lot of ways, I'm going to point a lot to HubSpot has great learning resources that are free. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are HubSpot centric, but there are some core principles that apply everywhere. What are some other great ones?
Well, it's like all the platforms do a really good job of educating their customers. So I think start there, right?
Start with the platform you're on. Yeah. I mean, there are some that are not as, depends on your platform really. If you're doing one of those top 10 ones, you're probably fine. But if you got a little bit more obscure one, maybe they're not as strong that way.
You never come up short, Mike. You are always rich with the resources. So we look forward to seeing
I do love building up that bank of resources. That's for sure.
That's right. You've inspired me many times over the years. Anything else, Mike, or are you good?
No, I think email's good.
Okay.
Email can be good.
Can be good.
Don't do newsletters.
Good.
That talk all about yourself. And commit. If you're going to do it.
Okay.
Be consistent.
All right, Mike, I've learned a lot. Thank you so much for all the insights.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in. For more information and other episodes, subscribe to the Marketing Team of One podcast on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify podcast networks. You can also chat with us on the r/Marketing Team of One subreddit or visit marketingteamofone.com to learn more.